For this project, we'll be discussing the case Henry Gualt. The case's original disagreement was between Jerry Gualt and his friend Ronald Lewis over an obscene phone call made to the house of their neighbor, Miss Cook. Jerry was a repeat offender and was already on probation at the time for stealing a wallet. This made his case a little bit harder to defend, but there were some indiscrepancies along the way. The further issues in the case immediately arise is Jerry is illegally arrested without the presence of his mother or father at the time of his arrest. Along with this illegal arrest, because he's a minor, there were violations to his 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendment rights through the process of his arrest, which made this case something that would be eligible for appeal. Throughout this case, you will continually hear referral to the misuse of the 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendment. These three amendments are critically important to helping Jerry's case, so I think it's important that we understand what they mean. One major discrimination throughout the course of this case was the court's misuse of Jerry's 5th Amendment right of self-incrimination. This particular clause was misused because Jerry was forced to confess and testify against himself, and this was probably something that was easy to do due to the fact that he was a minor and didn't have a lot of judicial knowledge before his case. In the case, Jerry's 6th Amendment rights were violated when he was not aware of his charges, meaning he didn't really know what he was being charged for, and he was not notified of his right to attorney. Throughout the case, or in the beginning stages of the case, he spoke on his case when an attorney probably would have advised him not to do so until a further time. The third way his 6th Amendment rights were violated, which is one that is probably very pivotal in the courtroom itself, is the fact that he was not allotted the opportunity to face or cross-examine any of his witnesses. Therefore, they were just going off the things that were said by the alleged victim. Gault's 14th Amendment rights were taken from him when he was taken into custody without equal protection, and he was also not given due process, which is a major element into fair judicial proceedings. This, the element of due process alone, was enough to pivotally change his case and is one of the reasons for the outcome. After their son's original hearing, the parents of Jerry Gualt file a lawsuit against the state of Arizona's courts because of the misconduct of their son's trial. This lawsuit is then sent to the Supreme Court, and the case will now be an official Supreme Court hearing due to the numerous amount of constitutional misconduct throughout their son's case. During the Supreme Court case, there will of course be two sides to what is given to the Supreme Court. The Arizona state courts say that they are there to help juveniles and make sure that they don't become criminals in the future. And they are saying that juveniles don't receive the same punishment as adults because they're trying to help them. And that Jerry's unlawful 6-year sentence for a crime that an adult would only receive 2 months or a $50 petty fine for will have Jerry in juvenile detention for 6 years as an attempt to help him and keep him on the right track that it seems like he's going to be going off of sometime soon because he's already on probation. Jerry's parents argued in the case and the previous case that the state should not be allowed to charge him without the same rights as other criminals, meaning the right to due process, which is one that is very pivotal, along with the right to an attorney. His parents argued that he could not have a fair trial without the right to due process or equal protection. Therefore, the trial wasn't fair. And on top of that, Jerry was a minor and was not aware of the charges he was facing. The original court decision made by the Arizona state courts would be later overturned in May of 1967 by the Supreme Court with an 8-1 decision on the regards that due process is the essence of fair judgment. This statement was made by the Supreme Court. Due process is the one primary indispensable foundation to individual freedom, because due process is a vital and important piece of each case when it comes to one defending themselves against the courts. This case would not have came out the way it did without the Supreme Court's deliberate and constitutional actions to go back and review Jerry's case.